Hi, friends. So we are still reading Officer Spence Makes No Sense. We are on chapter number 8. Mrs. Cooney is busted. I'm worried about this Mrs. Cooney because they already have so many principals and administrators and teachers who are in this jail. What are they going to do? And plus, they know nothing about these peanut butter and jelly sandwiches yet, right? So, I don't know. Let's keep reading to see what's going on. What a weird day it was. This hair just doesn't want to stay down today. Okay. What a weird day it was. Officer Spence was arresting grown-ups left and right. After reading, we had to go to the nurse's room for health. Our school nurse is Mrs. Cooney. She has eyes that look like cotton candy, and she is beautiful. She wanted to marry me a while back, but I told her I couldn't marry her because she's already married to some guy named Mr. Cooney. Mrs. Cooney was teaching us about hygiene. You should wash your hands every time you use the bathroom, she told us. That will prevent the spread of germs that make us... She didn't even have the chance to finish her sentence because that's when Officer Spence burst through the room. "Freeze, dirtbag," he yelled. "What's the meaning of this?" Mrs. Cooney put her hands up in the air. "I didn't do anything." "I want you to open up the cabinet over the sink slowly," Officer Spence ordered. Look at poor Miss Cooney. "And then back away. No false moves, Miss Cooney." Mrs. Cooney went back and opened the cabinet over the sink. There were some bandages and some bottles of aspirin. "Aha!" Officer Spence yelled. "Aspirin! Can you get that stuff in a drugstore?" "Well, yes, of course you can," Mrs. Cooney said. "Just as I suspected," Officer Spence shouted. "You're a drug dealer." "What?" "You're handing out drugs to innocent children," Officer Spence yelled as he wheeled in a portable jail cell. "You should be ashamed of yourself. How do you sleep at night?" Sometimes I take NyQuil," Mrs. Cooney said. "Get in that cell, Cooney, and nobody gets hurt." "But I didn't." "You have the right to remain silent," yelled Officer Spence, "so shut up." "No, help! Let me go." "Are you going to do a full-scale investigation?" I asked. "There's the scale." "Quiet, you," said Officer Spence. He told us to be on our best behavior while we wheeled Mrs. Cooney's jail cell over to where the other arrested teachers were. So as soon as he left the room, me and Michael and Ryan got up and shook our behinds to class. Most of the kids laughed, except for the little Miss I Never Do Anything Wrong. Sorry, Ellie was barking her brains out. Here I go again. Most of the children laughed, except for little Miss I Never Do Anything Wrong. "You know, you shouldn't be joking around, Arlo," Andrea said. "This whole thing is your fault." "My fault?" I said. "What did I do?" "If you had checked your lunchbox before coming to school, you would have noticed that your sandwich was missing," said Andrea. "Then none of this would have ever happened." I hate Andrea. We were all sitting there in the nurse's office without any grown-ups. I looked at Michael, Michael looked at Ryan, Ryan looked at Andrea, Andrea looked at Emily, Emily looked at Neil, the nude kid. We were all just looking at each other. "Maybe Officer Spence isn't a real security guard," I said. "Did you ever think of that?" "Yeah," Michael said. "Maybe he kidnapped our real security guard and has him locked up in a cage, just like he's locking up all the teachers. Stuff like that happens all the time, you know." "Stop trying to scare Emily," said Andrea. Emily looked like she was going to cry, as usual. "Officer Spence is crazy," Ryan said. "There's no telling what he'll do next." "He might put us all in jail," said Neil the nude kid. "We've got to do something," Emily said, and then she went running out of the room. "Well, at least we got rid of her. She's such a crybaby." "Emily was right," said Neil. "We've got to do something." "What can we do? Call the police?" asked Andrea. "Officer Spence is the police." Andrea was right for once in her life. There was nothing we could do. And then that's when I got the greatest idea in the history of the world. On the wall in the nurse's office is a little red box that says, "Fire. In case of emergency, break glass." "Are you thinking what I'm thinking?" I said to the guys. "Yeah," said the guys. "Is this an emergency?" I said. "Definitely," said the guys. "Arlo, don't do it," Andrea yelled. She tried to stop me, but I was too fast for her and I pulled the fire alarm. So there's like this little tiny asterisk there. That's what we call that star, an asterisk. And then you look down here and it tells you something important. It says, "Don't do this at school as a joke. Ever." See you tomorrow.